Hello everyone, it's Nina. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today I have a very exciting video for you. This video is showcasing one of my newest stamp designs, sketched elephants with whimsy stamps. I have a bunch of new stamps coming out this week, so be sure to stop by my blog for more information on that. Here is the sketched elephants stamps and die set. You can see I have so many really cute elephant images in the stamp set, and then there are coordinating dies to go ahead and die cut them out. These are really fun and a really great stamp set that I was really excited to create. So I'm going to be using the little elephant that's sitting on the ground with his little butt up in the air, and I'm going to be stamping this in some Simon Says Stamp Intense black ink. I'm going to be doing some Copic coloring, so I want to make sure that I have a good ink that's going to be safe to use with my Copic markers. For those of you who are new to the Simon Says Stamp ink, this ink is also waterproof, so you can actually watercolor with this ink as well. Now I'm using my MISTI tool to do my stamping. What I love most about my MISTI is that I can go ahead and re-stamp images just like this. When I stamped it the first time I didn't get a clean impression, but just a quick little bit more ink and flip it back over and it's stamped perfectly right in the exact spot that I'd stamped it the first time. So now I'm going to do some Copic coloring. I'm going to be doing some pretty simple coloring on this image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play some music and let you watch the coloring, and then I will come back when we start the next step of the process. So once we finished all of our coloring, I've taken the coordinating dies and I've got my big shot here, and I'm going to be die cutting these little images out. I'm just putting them down with some washi tape. I do have a magnetic platform down underneath them, but when I have multiple images like this, it helps to have the washi tape, so that way I just make sure they don't shift. So here you can see they cut out perfectly, and I just love how these little images are so cute and have such a fun, whimsical feel to them. Now I also want to show you one of the hearts that are included in the die set is a pretty large heart. I created this die so that way you could go ahead and create card panels out of this, or you could create a shaped card. I'm going to be showing you this quickly. I'm not doing it for this card, I'm just going to be using it as a panel, but you can go ahead and take this heart. You can see it cuts that beautiful stitching line along the inside edge. You're going to be able to take this heart and create a card base out of it, which is an idea that I really wanted to be able to have a die set for, because most heart dies aren't quite big enough to be able to do that without having it be a very small card. So to create the card base, you would want to take your scoring board, or you could use whatever you want as far as a scoring board, but you just need to basically score a line along the top portion of the heart. I'm doing it 1/2 of an inch in from the edge. And I'm just going to score that down along the edge using my stylus tool. And then once I have that all scored, I'm going to take some tape, or you can use any sort of adhesive. I'm going to put it along the top score line, so above where we scored. I'm going to line my hearts up together, and then once we have them adhered down, you can see we get this really cute and fun shaped card. Really cool and a fun way to be able to have a card base instead of a regular rectangle. Alright, so again, like I said, I'm going to be using the heart as just a panel. However, I did cut two, and you will see shortly why I ended up cutting two of them, as we'll be using this for creating dimension on our card. Now here I'm doing some ink blending using some Tumble Glass Distress ink. I'm just adding a little bit of sky for the bottom portion of my card. I want to be able to make this little heart a scene panel. So I'm just adding some Distress ink to create a nice little sky gradient. I'm not going to go all the way up, I'm just going to keep it along the bottom portion. Next, I've taken my elephant and I've attached him to this piece of grass that I've die cut using a My Favorite Things Grassy Hills die. I just attached the elephant down with some liquid glue, and now I'm taking my foam tape to go ahead and pop him off of the little heart panel. So I'll just remove the backing pieces, and then I'll go ahead and attach him down onto the heart. I also die cut that little piece of grass with that heart panel so that way it lined up perfectly and it had the stitch edging. If you didn't want to do that, you could just make the grass a little bit bigger than the heart itself and trim it down with some scissors. Alright, so here I've got my Copic markers. I'm going to be creating some grass using my greens. Just going to be doing some flicking motions. I'm going to flick that color up and create some grass blades. This is a really fun way to be able to add a little bit more dimension to your grass or any type of scene that you're creating. You could also use dots to create a stippling effect and have it a bit more suggestive instead of grass blades. But I like doing the grass blades every once in a while to really add that realistic touch to the ground. Once I have all the grass completed, I'm going to go ahead and create some clouds for my scene. I'm using some Lawn Fawn Stitched Clouds dies. I really like these clouds because they come in so many different sizes, and they're a really cute and simplistic cloud die. Alright, so now I'm going to be working on my sentiment. I've got some Versamark ink and some vellum, and I'm stamping this sentiment, which is from the Sketched Elephant stamp set. I'm going to be stamping this down onto the vellum and heat embossing it with some platinum embossing powder. I'm going to trim this out with my scissors. I really love the platinum embossing powder because it reminds me of a warm silver tone. So it's not quite gold and it's not quite silver. It's a nice in-between color for those times that you didn't want either one and you want it just to have a nice classy look. To add some texture to these clouds, I'm going to take a couple of BG markers and just add some shading. I also took a C1 marker to add in a little bit of a darker color. I'll go ahead and attach all my clouds and my sentiment piece down onto this panel. Just going to use some regular adhesive to go ahead and layer these on top. So here I decided I wanted to add some highlights to the grass. However, of course, I already put down the vellum panel. If I had been thinking, I wouldn't have done that already. But I didn't think of it at the time. So I'm just going to carefully peel this up so that way I don't rip the paper. And then I'll go ahead and add that little flicks of highlights to the grass. It really adds a little bit more dimension and fun texture to your grass. I really like doing this, but you can skip this step if you don't want to add the highlights. I also then added a little bit of texture to the elephant's cheeks, and that finished off the highlighting areas with my pen. Alright, so now I'm working on the panel that's going to be layered underneath my little elephants. I'm using some picked raspberry distress ink and a Simon Says Stamp Falling Hearts stencil. I'm going to add some of this picked raspberry ink onto the vellum. And this is going to be a nice soft background for our card without distracting from the scene that's going on. Next, I'm taking a My Favorite Things watercolor stripes background stamp. I really love this stamp because it's a nice, simple, but yet really interesting stripe background. The stripes aren't even, so it adds a nice bit of texture and interest to the card. So I'm going to use some Altenew Frosty Pink dye ink. I really love this dye ink because it's nice and crisp and stamps evenly on most papers. Once I've stamped that down, I'm going to go ahead and start putting my card together. Here's that second heart panel that I had mentioned earlier. I'm going to be putting some tape on the back side and attaching my piece of vellum down on top of it. This is going to give us a way to be able to add dimension to our card because all of our foam adhesive is going to be hidden behind this heart, which is really handy because, of course, through vellum you can see pretty much everything. But with this heart sitting there, it's going to be able to allow us to not see any of our adhesive on the back side, which is going to be very, very handy in creating our scene. So I'm just adding some double-sided tape to the back side of this heart. And then I'm going to take some foam pieces. I'm just using some scraps. This is a great way to be able to make use of all the scrap pieces of craft foam that you use. And I'm just going to add some double-sided adhesive on the back side of that as well and attach that down onto my card panel. Now you can see it just lines up perfectly, and again, you can't see any of the adhesive that's on the back side. So to finish this card off, I'm going to be using some Pretty Pink Posh Sparkling Clear sequins because I just love these sequins. They're one of my favorites. And then I'm going to take some glossy accents and add a little bit of shine and dimension to the elephant's eyes and also the little hearts. And this just adds a little bit extra finishing touch and a little bit of extra detail to really help finish this card off. So I hope you've enjoyed. Be sure to stop over at my blog where you can get more information on this card, including the products used. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comment section below. And thanks so much for stopping by. I hope you'll stop by my blog to see more of my new stamps this week, and can't wait to see what you create using these new products. If you enjoyed this video, here's another one you might be interested in featuring Copic coloring. You can find me on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube. So be sure to connect with me, and I will look forward to seeing you again in the next video. Thanks for watching.